Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. You know, it's very rare that anything ever lives up to the hype, and a great example of a product that's come under tremendous hype is the Olympus 75mm f1.8. PhotoZone gave it its coveted, highly recommended rating, and SLR Gear said it was one of the sharpest lenses it ever tested on any system. So the question we're asking here at Darren Miles Photography is, does the Olympus 75mm f1.8 live up to the hype? Well, let's find out. So let's start with build quality. It's got an all-metal construction, and there are 10 elements and 9 groups in here. It comes in at just under 11 ounces, which is kind of weighty on a small body like the OMDs. Proportionally speaking, it kind of feels like an 85L, which is a really big honking lens on a pretty small body like a Canon Rebel. On the downside, there's no focus meter on here, no distance meter on here. And it's important to note that the lens is not weather sealed, which is kind of disappointing given the lens's price point. But all in, I have to say it's a pretty solid effort by Olympus. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Next up, let's talk about focus speed and accuracy. This is one of the newer MSC lenses from Olympus, MSD standing for motion and still compatible, meaning that Olympus designed the lens to both do well with still photography as well as the video function. We found the focus to be insanely quick, on the order of a Canon ultrasonic, and we also found that the focus was mostly accurate most of the time. The OMD has a lot of focus points across the entire frame, but the focus points are kind of big, and sometimes the lens will focus quickly, but it may not be on the intended target. Fortunately, the focus is fast enough where even if it sails past your target and comes back, it still focuses pretty quick, just because the focus motor is so fast. So let me give you an example of how fast that focus motor is right now with some tests. Right now I'm focusing on something far away, bam, up close, right back. It actually focuses very, very quickly, and it's accurate again most of the time. We give that an 8.5 out of 10. Next, let's talk about the lens's optical quality. Frankly, it's amazing. The superlatives for this lens are just off the charts. Anywhere you go, you're going to read some great things about this lens. But rather than me telling you about it, it's probably better if I just show you how great the 75mm is from Olympus. The next 10 or 15 seconds here will be stills taken with this lens. Value. The proverbial fly in the ointment for the Olympus 75mm f1.8. At $899 US, this lens is not cheap, especially when you consider it's for the Micro Four Thirds system. Moreover, something to consider, at 75mm, this offers the field of view equivalent of 150mm on a full frame camera, which renders it kind of limited to just being a really nice portrait lens, and it is a great portrait lens. I don't want to take anything away from that. But I was thinking perhaps one of the reasons why this lens has garnered so relatively few reviews in the world of the Micro Four Thirds system may very well be the price point, as most Micro Four Thirds lenses frankly are a lot less expensive than this one. However, the Micro Four Thirds system is a lot more serious because of this lens as well, and it's starting to gain traction with some professional photographers out there. That said, if you're considering making the switch to the Micro Four Thirds system, the 75mm f1.8 from Olympus is a must. If you're a serious portrait photographer and you want to get into this kind of a camera, you have to get this lens. It offers some pretty amazing results. And it's only because of the price point that we're giving it an 8 out of 10. And one other thing to consider with regard to that price, the lens does not come with a lens, which we think is a bit of a negative when you consider again how expensive the lens is. Well, it's time to draw some conclusions about the 75mm from Olympus. I've been shooting professionally for about 8 years now, and in that time, it's been so rare for anything to live up to the hype. I'm primarily a Canon shooter, and I thought I'd heard it and seen it all before. The hype was very similar for the Canon 85L, the 135L, and most recently the 70-200 Mark II. And those lenses are all great lenses. They really are. But in my opinion, the Olympus is at least as good as those lenses, and in some situations, I think it even rises above them all. So in a nutshell, as we described earlier, it's got really, really solid build quality. It's made out of metal. It feels really solid in the hand. We give it a 9 out of 10. Focus speed and accuracy, it's pretty fast, but it isn't always accurate, but we think that's more of a fault of the OMD than it is necessarily the lens. Optical quality, I didn't mention it before, but I'm going to mention it now. It's a 10. I don't see how image quality gets any better than this. Quality of the results, also a 10, but again, that's based on the assumption that you're going to use it as a portrait lens. Value, it's not weather sealed, there's no lens cap, and there's no distance meter. It's got a relatively high price. That's an 8 out of 10. Overall, it's a 45.5 out of 50, and that qualifies this as a highly recommended lens. The lens and the OMD camera, I should say this lens and the OMD camera it's made it to, have made me a believer in the Micro Four Thirds system. This is a really nice piece of glass. This is Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography in beautiful sunny Naples, Florida. I thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, happy shooting.